I think all of these things, when you think about them all together, I think people are going to be looking, and they're already doing this, looking for like an authenticity to everything. You know what I mean? Like, I know lots of people still go to mega churches. I don't think that kind of thing is going to survive
I don't either.
into the future. And one of the big reasons is because it's very difficult to do the community thing, or even to be quite honest, like it's very difficult to to even like really pastor people, or even like to even do the basic stuff right in that context. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very difficult. And so and I think that I think automatically some of the kind of like traditional feel of church goes out the window when you have 10,000 people
Right.
in your church, and video screens everywhere like a stadium. So anyway, all that to say is that I think people are going to, the stuff on, look, internet is part of real life. I'm not going to say do the thing where it's like internet's not real life, but with AI content creators and all kinds of lying content creators, there's one common carnivore diet content creator that
Oh,
presents
Liver
themselves
King.
as a man, but it's actually a woman.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
and anyway, whatever. Like the point is, like, there's all kinds of lying going on and deceptions and things like that. People are gonna, I think, rebel against that to some degree, and they're still gonna consume online content, of course, but the voices that are too easily manipulated by or copied by AI, like, if I type in AI right now, Chat GPT, give me an article about the latest event, in the style of Gospel Coalition, it will be identical to what you'll find from Gospel Coalition.
Right.
That's going to go the way of the dodo. Nobody's going to want that anymore.
Right.
They're going to want, more authentic style online content. But I think they're also going to want just in real life
Right.
people that they could hang out with, that they could grab a beer with. If you're Presbyterian, if you're Baptist, maybe grab a grape juice or something like
We
that.
have wine for the Lord's Supper because we're biblical, and I drink beer. And you know this, AD. We have drank beer together.
I do know this.
Okay, so.
That's why I said it.
But I'm one of the minorities. I admit that. I admit.
Anyway, but my point is, like, they're going to want to have people that they're serious about the Lord, but there's as little pretense as possible. And I think sometimes, and I'm not saying this is true of every megachurch. I've never been to every megachurch, but when I go to megachurches, you've got the greeting team, and you've got this, and
Right.
everything seems very contrived. Now, every church usually has that. They'll have someone that goes up to new people, but when it's in a smaller context, it just does not feel the same. You know what I mean?
Right.
It does not feel the same. If you've ever visited a smaller church where you kind of had the idea that, oh, this is the guy that they send to new folks to talk to them, like, it's different. It's different
Right.
from a mega church to a smaller church.
Right.
Anyway, I think all this stuff is all about human connections and like authentic connections, because what we get online and what they're trying to push on us is all inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even down to like the sexuality, like they're trying to push transsexuals. That's inauthentic.
Yeah.
Obviously, to say the best about it,
Right.
it's inauthentic.
Right. Yep.
I think that's the common denominator with all the things you just said,
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I think one thing on the mega churches, I was just thinking, mega churches really became a thing in the Bible Belt, and Southern California would be another hot spot. But mega churches became like the church growth movement. Bill Hybels, like large, like, I mean, technically, like Charles Spurgeon, you could argue that he had a mega church, the London Metropolitan Tabernacle, like, so there have been some big churches. I think the Church of Antioch was probably pretty big, the church in Jerusalem. So, like, I'm not, neither you or I are philosophically inherently against mega churches, but in terms of mega churches being so common, a dime a dozen, that's relatively new. A new
Sure.
phenomenon that you can track back to pretty much the 80s and 90s. However, what I was going to say is that one thing that's radically changed is the internet. And that a lot of the reason why the megachurch appealed to people is because they wanted to be able to slip in and slip out and have an experience without the community. They didn't go to a megachurch because they wanted a community with 10,000 people. You go to a context of 10,000 people because you don't want community, because you're just a number that you can. You can't go to a church of 75 people and show up 15 minutes late and not be noticed for being late. You know what I mean? Like you better be on time. And you also, if things are uncomfortable or you don't like it or you're bored or whatever, like you can't slip out without it being kind of.
Well, I'll tell you, this is, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is, and it's not typically, well, maybe it could be from a place of judgment, but I'll tell you right, one time, recently I have a new church. I don't know if I told everyone in the audience this yet, but
tell me this.
just a church, a local church just in my town. So I was driving an hour. It was a great church, but it was an hour away, So anyway, we just started going to this church, and my family was out of town. I even forget where they were doing, but I was all alone. And so I went to church that day, and I just started feeling really ill, in the middle of the service. And so I skedaddled, right? And I'll never forget it. Like, I got a text after church was over from my buddy. It's like, dude, I saw you leave. Are you all right?
Yep,
and it wasn't from a place of judgment. It's like, is everything okay?
Right.
Kind of thing. Mm-hmm. He saw me because there's only like 50 people at that church.
Right. Exactly. Well, and that's what I'm saying. So my point is, like, pairing that with the internet, when the mega church movement, church growth movement, Bill Hybels, that kind of thing, Saddleback, like when that really was becoming a thing, and praise God, Saddleback, was just voted out of the SBC, and so that that's hopeful. There's a lot more.
Such a white pill, man. That's great news.
But it's great news. Let's take it and celebrate the Lord. But with that, when that was becoming a thing, the mega church growth movement thing was really lifting off. You did not maybe the internet was a little bit after that coming on the scene, but it wasn't like it is now. It was not podcasting was not a thing. YouTube was not a thing. And all those things are getting better. YouTube's getting better, streaming services are getting better. Twitter, you can do Twitter Spaces now and all these. And so my point is, if that's all somebody wants is just an experience, like and typically the person who goes to a megachurch wants the invisible experience, the unnoticed, slipping in unnoticed experience. My point is that the type of person who goes to a megachurch, I'm not saying they're going to leave a mega church and find a small church. I'm saying they're just not going to go to church at all. I think
that's right.
That over the next few years, that person, they're just going to listen to YouTube, right? They're just going to watch YouTube. They're going to listen to podcasts. They're going to, be following.
Because really, there's no difference.
There's no difference. That's my point.
From their perspective.
Exactly. And so my point is that I think now, like the internet and all these spaces, these little virtual communities, pseudo communities online have become so dialed in and have improved so much in terms of content, experience, being able in the chats and stuff like that to engage with people and talk as you're listening and all that. Like, why get out of bed? And so I think that the mega church is gonna, I think it's going to become extinct. I really do. I think that the only thing that's going to endure is when I'm thinking I got to get out of bed. Well, for me, I won't use me as an example because for me, it's I need to worship the Lord. I need to lead my wife and children. I also need a paycheck. It's my job, So there,
it's a little different for you.
My situation is a little bit, but the average person who's a member at Covenant Bible Church, the church that I pastor in Central Texas, when they show up, they're showing up because they're thinking it's the Lord's Day, and I need to take the supper. I need to eat the bread. I need to drink the wine. I need to sing and address one another, not just God that I can do privately while listening to a worship CD, or CDs aren't even a thing anymore, worship, whatever, but like a song on Alexa, whatever at home. But no, I'm commanded to address one another, the saints, with psalms, hymns, and spiritual. So I need to sing to people. I need to eat bread, drink wine, renew. It's a covenantal renewal ceremony. I need to renew the covenant. I've broken the covenant this last week. Renew the covenant with the Lord. Remember my baptism. I need my kids and my wife to be washed in the Word, to be physically present there. And I need to check up on these people that I love and that I know, and I need to touch them and shake their hand and ask them, how are you doing? And go to lunch with them and blah, blah, blah. And I think like that will never get replaced. The metaverse cannot replace. There's no substitute for that. That will never go anywhere. That's Jesus' model. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's going nowhere. But you look at the average mega church, seeker sensitive kind of church experience, and I'm looking at that, and then I'm looking at Twitter Spaces, and I'm looking at Jordan Peterson lectures with the Daily Wire, and I'm thinking, Megachurch is it has a short expiration date. That thing ain't gonna last much longer. So.
Yeah, this has been interesting though. I honestly haven't really considered too much about what kinds of churches will actually make it. They're gonna make it. Then
Right.
this is interesting. I think there's some good stuff here.
All right, hold up. You're not going to want to miss this. I'm going to tell you exactly how our spring 2024 conference is going to go down. Here's the title of the conference: Blueprints for Christendom 2.0. Subtitle: 7 Doctrines for Ruling the World. We're going to have 7 primary sessions covering each of these doctrines for ruling the world righteously. Number 1, Reformed Confessionalism. That's going to be Pastor Doug Wilson preaching on that topic. Then we've got Covenant Theology with Pastor Brian Sauvé. Then we've got Biblical Patriarchy with Pastor Michael Foster. Then we've got Presuppositionalism with Dr. Joseph Boot. Then we've got Kuyperianism, All of Christ for All of Life, where we're going to welcome Pastor Doug Wilson back for a second session. Then we've got General Equity Theonomy. We're going to have Dr. Joseph Boot come and do a second session on that topic. And then lastly, we'll have Pastor Dale Partridge on postmillennial eschatology. In addition to these 7 sessions, we're also going to have not 1, but 2 live podcasts. On the first day of the conference, that's Friday, March 1st, we're going to have a live Theology Applied podcast. I'll be on the stage hosting the discussion with Douglas Wilson, Michael Foster, and Eric Kahn from It's Good to Be a Man. The topic is going to be all about biblical patriarchy. We're going to specifically be parsing out, distinguishing the biblical doctrinal differences between patriarchy and complementarianism. Again, that's Friday, March 1st, the first day of the conference, a live Theology Applied podcast on biblical patriarchy. Then we're going to have the next day, that's Saturday, March 2nd, a live Haunted Cosmos podcast. I'll be hosting this discussion with Brian Sauvé and Ben Garrett. We're going to be talking about the Nephilim. We're going to be talking about the Watchers. We're going to be talking about what creatures currently are living underneath the surface of the earth and chasms of the deep. It's going to be wacky. It's going to be weird, but it will also be thoroughly biblical and incredibly unhinged. So you're not going to want to miss these 2 live podcasts: Theology Applied on Friday, March 1st, the first day of the conference, on biblical patriarchy with Doug Wilson, Michael Foster, Eric Kahn, and myself. And then the next day of the conference, Saturday, March 2nd, a live Haunted Cosmos podcast with Brian Sauvé and Ben Garrett and myself on the Nephilim, the Watchers, and what lies under the surface of the earth. And then the conference will hold over for one final, the third and final day. That's going to be the Lord's Day, Sunday, March 3rd, where one of our speakers will be holding over to preach the Lord's Day sermon, and I'll be leading us in worship through the liturgy. So we've got 3 days, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of 2024, Blueprints for Christendom 2.0, 7 Doctrines for Ruling the World. You're not going to want to miss this conference. Our early bird rate is still available, but only for a very short period of time. We are ending the early bird rate on August 31st at 11:59 p.m. That will be the final chance to get into this conference at an affordable, cheap rate. All right, so go and take advantage of the early bird rate right now by going to rightresponseconference.com. Again, that's rightresponseconference.com to register for Blueprints for Christendom 2.0, March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2024. Register today.